In the lush hills of Jamaica's northwestern parish of Trelawney, nestled within the rural embrace of Clarkstown, a boy named Keith Blair was born on March 31st, 1976. Known to the world today as Anthony B., this quiet child would rise from a backdrop of tradition, spirituality, and cultural tension to become one of reggae's most uncompromising and powerful voices, a rebel with a cause, wrapped in robes of righteousness and fueled by the fire of conviction. Anthony B's roots were deep in the Jamaican soil, steeped in spiritual traditions that shaped his early consciousness. His home life was a tapestry of religious fervor. His mother, a devoted Seventh-day Adventist, and his grandmother, a passionate revivalist, filled their home with hymns, prayers, and the certainty of divine presence. But young Keith was drawn to a different vibration, something raw, rooted, and resonant. That sound came through the records of Bob Marley and Peter Tosh. In the cracks of dusty vinyl and the hypnotic rhythm of the bass, Keith found his calling. Marley's poetic cries for unity and Tosh's fierce chants of revolution weren't just entertainment, they were revelations. Peter Tosh, in particular, became a sonic blueprint for the young artist. His militant tone, his fierce advocacy for justice, and his disdain for societal corruption lit a fire in Keith that would never be extinguished. As adolescence crept in, so too did the questions, spiritual, cultural, existential. Keith began to question the religious structure he'd grown up in, and in the answers he sought, he found Rastafari. Embracing the Rastafari movement as a teenager, he rejected the path laid out for him and took on a new name, Anthony B., stepping away from family expectations and into the unknown. His conversion to Rastafari was met with disapproval from his family. The dreadlocks he grew, the overstandings he adopted, and the fierce spiritual independence he embodied clashed with the values of his Adventist household. When tensions boiled over, Anthony B. made the bold decision to leave home and move to Portmore, St. Catherine, to live with his aunt and uncle. It was in Portmore that he encountered the Bobo Ashanti Order, a branch of Rastafari known for their strict discipline, distinctive long robes, and towering turbans. The Bobo Dreads, as they were called, stood tall in their spiritual identity and fierce Afrocentric pride. Anthony B. embraced their teachings and aesthetics wholeheartedly. It was a transformation not just of outer appearance, but of inner purpose. This was no longer just Keith Blair, the curious child. This was Anthony B., the firebrand prophet, the lyrical warrior. While attending high school, Anthony B. found his first platform as a DJ on the local sound system, Shaggy High Power. It was a proving ground for many young artists, a place where talent clashed with raw ambition under the moonlit skies of street corner sessions and dance hall gatherings. Here, Anthony honed his delivery, sharpening his voice into a weapon of lyrical resistance. The early 90s were a turbulent time in dancehall music. Slackness, songs filled with sexually explicit content, dominated the airwaves. Many young artists followed the trend, chasing quick fame, but not Anthony B. He turned his back on the shallow glamour of slack lyrics, choosing instead to write songs charged with political awareness, social justice, and spiritual depth. It was a risky move, but he was never one to follow the crowd. In 1993, he made his recording debut with the single "The Living is Hard," a haunting lament that captured the struggles of the ghetto youth. Produced in collaboration with Little Devon on the Wizard label, it introduced the world to a new voice, one that carried the defiance of Peter Tosh, the mysticism of the Bobo Ashanti, and the grit of Jamaica's streets. But finding the right producer proved to be a journey in itself. Anthony B. knocked on many studio doors, his message often too militant, too raw, too real for some. It wasn't until he linked with Richard Bello of Star Trail Records that things clicked. Together, they created a body of work that would become staples of conscious reggae. Tracks like Fire Upon Rome, Raid Die Barn, Rumour, and Repentance Time echoed across the Caribbean and beyond, making it clear that Anthony B. was not just another DJ. He was a voice of the people. By the late 90s, Anthony B. had carved out his space in the reggae world. In 1997, he dropped Universal Struggle, his first full-length album, cementing his role as a frontline soldier in reggae's new generation of conscious artists. The album was a bold statement, tackling issues like inequality, Babylonian oppression, and the spiritual warfare faced by Rastafarians and ghetto youths alike. With each release, his influence grew. The 1999 album Seven Seals deepened his spiritual themes, drawing heavily from biblical allegories and apocalyptic imagery. Then came 2003's Street Knowledge, an album that merged streetwise storytelling with deep philosophy, followed by 2004's Untouchable, which pushed boundaries through high-profile collaborations with international stars like Wyclef Jean, Snoop Dogg, and Bone Crusher. Anthony B. was taking reggae to the world, and the world was listening. He followed this with Black Star in 2005, a project filled with Afrocentric pride, and My Hope, which offered uplifting anthems during trying times. As the years passed, Anthony B. remained prolific. In 2008, he dropped Life Over Death, another album that held up a mirror to society's ills while pointing toward higher consciousness. But the path was not always smooth. In January 2013, Anthony B. found himself entangled in a legal case in the United States. Stopped in Georgia for tinted windows, police discovered marijuana in the vehicle and charged him with possession with intent to distribute. The incident forced him to cancel several shows in South America as legal restrictions prevented him from leaving the country. However, Anthony B. maintained his innocence and the charges were ultimately dropped. The fire was never dimmed, it only burned brighter. That same year, he channeled his reverence for music's pioneers into a special project. Tribute to Legends was an album of covers, honoring icons like Bob Marley, the Maytals, John Lennon, Ray Charles, Elvis Presley, and Inni Kamoze. Speaking about the album, Anthony B. said, "I chose to make a tribute album to firstly show how much these legends influence my music and my life. It was a heartfelt homage, bridging genres and generations, and showcasing the breadth of Anthony B.'s musical heart." In 2016, he returned with Tears of Love, released under his own label, Born Fire Music. The album featured international collaborations, including work with Everton's music on the track Life Good. It was clear that Anthony B. wasn't content to remain confined to Jamaica's borders. He was building bridges, spreading his message across continents. And then, in 2020, as the world braced itself against a global pandemic, Anthony B. offered a message of strength and sovereignty. King in My Castle, his 20th studio album, was a declaration of inner power and resilience. In a time of chaos and isolation, his voice cut through the noise, reminding listeners that true royalty lies in self-mastery. Throughout his journey, Anthony B. has remained one of the most consistent touring reggae artists, performing across Europe, North America, Africa, and beyond. His stage presence, fiery, commanding, righteous, has electrified audiences around the globe. Despite industry trends, legal hiccups, and the temptations of commercialism, Anthony B. has remained unshakable in his mission. His lyrics are a sword, his albums a gospel, and his performances a ritual. He is a modern-day griot, a prophet in dreadlocks, and a testament to the power of music with a message. When asked about his use of the phrase burn fire, Anthony B. once clarified, "When we say burn fire, we don't mean take a match and light somebody. We are saying get rid of these things that are no good for humanity." For him, the fire is symbolic, a purifying force, a spiritual cleansing, a call to arms against injustice, ignorance, and spiritual decay. In the world of reggae, artists come and go, waves rise and fall. But Anthony B remains, unbent, unbroken, and eternally ablaze. Share your opinion. What is your Anthony B's favorite song? Wife. Anthony B is reportedly married, but he has not publicly disclosed many details about his wife, including her name or background. He prefers to maintain a degree of separation between his public musical career and his private family life. Children. Anthony B is a father and has children. In interviews, he has occasionally spoken about fatherhood and how being a parent has influenced his outlook on life and his music. However, he does not frequently share their names or personal details publicly, likely out of a desire to protect their privacy. Please subscribe